Hey, welcome to the Intuitive Mindset. Here's a question for you today. There's a difference between wisdom and intelligence. And if I told you the most intelligent thing in the world is nature, would that spark your interest? Well, guess what? Stay listening, because today I'm going to bring in a guest who's going to talk about how the only healing you need is to get back to nature, and that we're complicating this. Curious just how and what that means? Stay listening. Daniel Mirfield and his book, Seedling, is coming up in today's interview. Enjoy. Daniel, thank you so much for coming in today. Tomorrow, we'll talk about that in a second. I'm so excited to talk with you today, to share your beautiful modality with the world. To get started with our interview today, I was really interested in your modality, and I know it's all about being in the woods and nature and mindfulness and channeling and meditation. And I was hoping that you could share your beautiful light with the people listening today.
Absolutely, and thank you for having me. I was born in the UK. I grew up in the countryside, and I was the surroundings that I was very lucky. I was surrounded by animals and nature from a very young age, which I actually think is a critical step that everybody should really kind of embrace, or at least appreciate that experience. But as I kind of grew up, I knew I was different. I knew I read energy different. I knew my kind of vision on the world was different to the routine. And then I got a kind of an awakening one day where it's my place to share the knowledge that I have, because times are changing and times are changing rapidly. So I've come back into this kind of different format. It was almost like a rebirth. I went away within my mind, and then I came back within my mind, and now I've got a story to tell, or I've got services to offer. So that's where I am today. This is the position I find myself in. So I grew up in a country. My mum is she loves animals, so we were surrounded by animals all the time. And if someone was giving an animal away, we would most likely inherit that animal, and that was my freedom. That was my point of call, where I found myself being comfortable with the world. So if an animal came to me, and it typically would form a close bond, and it would be going from that scared process to that kind of like unsure to being quite tame and relaxed around me, and that happened all the time. I had this connection where I could find myself being comfortable. But you spoke about identity, and identity. Most people on this planet never know who they are. And when I was growing up, I knew I was different, but I didn't have the teachings, or kind of like that calm freedom of knowledge to be able to understand the energies that are running through me. So I used to wake up in the middle of the night speaking with spirits. I used to sit upon my bed. I can remember most times where those spirits that were there, I was just talking, or I would get up and I would just start walking around the house, and my mum would tell you that she'd walk right behind me, turning off the lights, and I would just follow my guides. And back in those times, especially in England, they have quite a closed off mindset. Anything out the ordinary is deemed as, unacceptable views, unacceptable. We don't know what's going on. There's something wrong with him, and when you go to school and nobody really kind of resonates with the values that you hold, or the kind of positions that you put yourself in. The biggest thing for me was words, and I have struggled with words my whole life.
Tell me more about that.
So words actually trip us up more times than not. And when I used to see a word, I used to see the energy behind the word. So if you think of you having a conversation, you'll only hear kind of like 10% of the truth, because it's highly like weighed in the favor of the person who's expressing themselves.
Yeah.
And that's because of this control logic based reality that we live in. We kind of create a theme, and then we stick to that theme, and it has more lies than it has truth, typically within society. So when I used to see words, they never used to I never used to see them in the way that I kind of like, I would understand the word. I would understand the energy behind the words. And with every word, there's a story. So if you, and this is part of one of my methods of how I start to know people. They can tell me a story, and it only takes a word for me to jump into their reality to read the true story, not the story that they're telling me, but the story that the actual story that they've actually experienced. So words that are formatted are based under logic, and part of our brain that we function on a highly small part of who we are. So at that 8, 9, 10%, whatever the number is, we're 100% logical formatted. So when we look into our mental health and the status of what we hold within our embodiment, we have to touch part of the rest of the brain. So that 90%, that doesn't require control. That requires the freedom to be at peace, to acknowledge, to expand our consciousness. So because we're teaching words 100% logic, we're teaching words to control. We're teaching words to have a conditioning reality over people and how they operate within the world. So when a kid's growing up and they're asking questions and stuff like that, your own problems or your kind of reality or concept of how the world operates is then imprinted in them. And because it's controlled reality, every problem that we have is transferred across because we're fear-based. We have no real understanding that it's okay to make mistakes and learn from it. It's okay to make those choices because within every moment there's free will, and free will means that if anybody has a moment to sit back and think about it, there's a chance, an opportunity to do the right thing. Whereas if you're forced into a corner and this is the programming that you faced, you're more likely to try and defend yourself, and you defend yourself under the umbrella of fear. And that's what words do within society. They don't bring a harmony to people's lives. They don't bring the value of expression. They don't bring this kind of alternative way of how life should be. They bring it under the operational procedures of how control works.
So when you're working with somebody that comes to you, are they coming because they already are having these issues, and so you just sit down and let them tell you what they're needing from you, and then from that you go into the deeper work of identifying the words that they're using? Am I defining your work and how you work with somebody? Is that
Yes, so words are a small part of that kind of like the bigger picture, because I look at mental health, and when people say mental health, they go, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. But everybody's faced trauma, everybody's faced fear, and there's energies that run through our body, and this is everybody on the planet that we don't even know that are there. So when I kind of break down the sessions, words are a part of it because they can bring our attention and our awareness to the present moment, and that's what the meaning of life is about, is being present within that moment, experiencing life for what it is. So the energies that run through us, we can have energies, and we can live someone else's storm for the whole of our life with no identity. And logic dictates that our identity is the name that we're born with, and part of that is true. Everybody needs a name, but our true identity is the relationship of our soul to our embodiment, and that relationship to the soul to embodiment is that moment of peace, is that connecting in with that consciousness of the planet. So when we go to healing, we look at the energies that complete us, and the energies that complete us that are maybe controlling us, and because they're controlling us, they're dictating our actions and the way that we operate within this world.
Did you need to do your own healing to be where you are today? I really want my audience to know what it is that you do, because it sounds like you do so much, and maybe even in a different way than my audience has ever heard before. So Let's play a little game. I meet you on the street and I am in need of a healing, and I'm going to just role play with you because I would love to hear how you define it for yourself. So I run into you and I say, I've just spent the last 3 years coming out of COVID. I'm feeling isolated. I've got some trauma from my childhood. I'm not sure where I'm heading right now. I've got all these physical things going on in my body, and I'm really seeking a healer to kind of help me through some of these things of panic and anxiety. And I was wondering what you do and how you do it that could maybe help me.
Yeah. So I remember when I said I used to spend a lot of my mind in alternative dimensions. I used to escape. So I went from one place of avoidance, being locked up, to another place of avoidance in my physical embodiment. And I got the message. I had to come back. I had to stop this avoidance, stop this period of time, and it's all within. And all the books channeled, everything's channeled. So this what I'm teaching now is a step that we are missing, and I'm trying to fill that gap within.
What is the step that we're missing? Please, let's go there.
So when we look at the world that we've designed, and I kind of like touched on a little earlier about control, we are missing out who we are, and then we talk about identity. But when we bring our awareness to our place within this planet, everything that we've experienced is part of it. So we cannot remove that, but we can start to understand ourselves. So understanding ourselves, we actually emotionally charge the way that we act under that control-based reality. So everything that happens in the past, you can tell me about it, but my first instinct is to bring your awareness to who you are. Within this moment, how do you feel? So we do that by defining the difference between emotions and feelings. Emotions we can't control. They're a beauty within this lifetime that we're here to experience. But because we create emotions under the umbrella of fear, we then minimize our feelings. So our feelings are our gifts. So we see, we hear, we smell, we touch, we taste. And because we've minimized them, we start to use those in addictive states. So for example, your reaction for change is under fear. It means that, like, I might see something and I might go out and buy it. That's an addictive state. Or I might hear someone and close down my conversation. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know. Or I might smell something and go buy junk food, So we've minimized our use of our embodiment. We've minimized the use of that way that we actually perform within on this planet. So by starting off, we bring our awareness and then we define feelings. So and we do this by really fine-tuning the way that we operate. So if I have a conversation with you, I'll ask you to close off some of your feelings and just concentrate on a couple. And I could be having a conversation and ask you to close off everything but your eyes, and then tell me what you're feeling within that moment. Or I could ask you to express yourself, but without using words. And what we're doing is we're building on this relationship that's been locked and removed from the way that we perform, because we don't know the value of peace. So as this relationship builds up, we start to open the conscious mind, and the mind goes, oh, we're re-engaging in who we are. We're starting to actually embrace these gifts that we've got, instead of emotionally charging every situation that we enter in. And then the mind starts to open up a higher consciousness, at least, to be able to receive and send messages. And then all of a sudden you start looking at the spaces that you put yourself in, the company that you hold, the values that you keep within this life. So every stage we're building on these principles, and all this is divine by nature. So every answer that we need within this lifetime is present within nature. And the human mindset is greed. We've taken away every aspect of nature. We destroy, we cut down, we kind of build houses. And there was one quote within my book that stayed with me the whole time. And I heard it on a documentary, and it was from the Egyptians, where they said, humans will just carry on building houses. And there is so much knowledge within that one quote. Because if you engage your feelings and listen to the story behind that, we have no identity. We destroy and we dismantle the way that the world operates. Mm-hmm. So as I kind of jump into this healing process, I'm looking at you as an individual, and it's always an individual. Everybody's got an identity, everybody's got an individual, and everybody's got a story. I'm looking at you as an individual, and I'm looking to build on this relationship that is inside of you that you don't even know you're aware of. You don't even know the value of what the energy holds, and everything is about energy. So we talk about your parents, your astrology. Like the best example is you could have formed a personality where you look back in the past and go, "Oh, I remember laughing at that," and that might just be a method of trying to hide away, or at least put like a positive spin on things, because you didn't know how to cope with it. So your whole memory of your life could be distorted because it was just a coping mechanism for what you were truly experiencing. And all those factors, every aspect of that. So when we go through spiritual awakenings, we could be far away detoured off our true path. And what we do is we grow, realign, rebalance, revalue. And that could happen 10 times, 20 times, 30 times until you get back on that right path.
Got it.
But because we're realigning our values and the way that we see the world, it changes so often and so quick. We go to a plate of avoidance, and because we're connecting in with our conscious mind and we're seeing different things, we all of a sudden go, "Oh, this is too hard. This is too emotional. I don't understand this concept. I'll just go to this high spiritual place and then avoid my embodiment." And that avoidance of our embodiment is the step that we're missing. It is understanding that the energies that control us, if we ignore them today, tomorrow, 10 years time, when you have children, it is always passed on. It is, and that conditioning that you face as soon as you have that child, and you could be grounded, you could be relaxed, you could be highly in a highly peaceful place. But the minute you're triggered and the minute that you pass on those energies, you are then repeating the same problems and not learning who you are.
Got it. Wow. Take us to your book so my audience can learn, right? So we've heard about so much about what your intention is with your work and really how it kind of came to be. And you said you had this awakening, and then did the awakening happen and then the book happened, or is the book? Take us through that and talk about your book. I'll put beautiful slides up and I'll put the links if people want to get your book and stuff. But what can someone expect when they look at your book, Daniel?
So my relationships with my guides have been constant and always there, always connected. And I know I have multiple guides around me at every stage of every day, and sometimes interchange. But it's not just the guides within in the spiritual world. It's for example, yesterday, I don't know if you know much about fantails. I had the door open, I was working on a computer, and a fantail came in and flew and come in and had a conversation and left again. And fantails in New Zealand are a spiritual bird. They're the connection between the spiritual world and stuff like that. So I am receiving messages. I'm receiving messages all the time.
Okay. Love that. So is your book a channeled piece of work, or is it about your process?
Yeah, so channeling is opening your consciousness to receiving, and receiving information. So you can channel in many different ways, and I channel. I don't have one particular method of the way that I channel. And for me to make this book, they've been ready for years, and they've been sitting on my shoulder, wanting me to make it, and I just wasn't ready, and I wasn't ready. And timing is obviously everything. And last year was the right time for me. So I would say that this book was always destined to be written, just because of the way that I know that my guides work and how they've been ready to tell me this information from the get go. But the way I channel, I sometimes I see visions. I see kind of like video clips being played out within my mind. I hear phrases. There's probably 5 or 6 different kind of unique ways in which they send me the information and I receive it. But the actual channeling part was very relaxed and easy flowing, like it should be when you receive messages. For me, the difficult part was making sure that the message that I received was correct. Because if someone gives you a picture, you can interpret that picture so many different ways. Like everybody has their own individual aspect of that thing. So I spend a lot of time talking and going to and from, back and from, making sure, is that what you want? Is that what you're trying to tell me? And when you read the book, you have to be in a mindset, because it's deep in the concept that it's everything that you've ignored. It's everything that you've chosen to avoid. And if you are still in that kind of like stage of avoidance, you'll read it and go, oh, well, no, and you'll instantly try and regret it. But if you put in a stage of honor, self-awareness, accountability, responsibility, you instantly
Lean in.
have these. You're connecting into the challenging version, so you'll be able to see what is present within your life when you connect in, and you just have to be able to listen. And when I say listen, you're listening to the value of who you are, and listening to that position that you find yourself within this moment.
So it sounds like your book lines up identically with the process and your work that you're doing for others right now. So the name of the book is Seedling, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Why that? What is the definition to you? Why that title? Take my audience through that before we start wrapping up our beautiful interview today.
So one of the first images I saw was a seedling, and because I work in because I'm going in a direction of people's minds, our planet, our purpose is reflected within nature. So within a tree, and the way it grows, it grows the deep roots, and then it stabilizes and then grows tall. But because we've locked ourselves up within our minds, our roots are minimized. There's no room for growth. Everything that you see within a tree, it stabilizes with underneath the ground, and the ground represents the mind. It represents the value that we hold. So for us to be able to grow as a person, or grow into our embodiment and build this relationship, our mind needs to be strong. Because if we don't have a strong mind, we cannot complete this divine relationship to our soul. So the seedling is the start of a journey where the foundations and the core principles of life are all grown via the roots. And then as soon as you stabilize those roots, the tree can blossom, and it can grow into something beautiful.
I love that. Oh, that sounds gorgeous. I will put the links in here for people to, if they want to look at your book or buy your book, that would be great. I have one question before we head to the end of this interview, and it's, you have so much wisdom with where you are in your life and what you do in your life to help and be in service to others. With everything that we've been through, when you were talking about, and I totally connected to everything you were saying about where we're heading and being left behind and getting connected and moving on and evolving and shifting in this beautiful place where we are today, as in the ascension process, right? What message do you have for the world right now, where we are and where we're heading, so that people are not left behind? And connecting to themselves, what would you like to share as far as the wisdom aspect for what you do for people, that might be of service to others right now hearing this interview?
When we look at life, it's already pre-designed or interpreted this the way that you should perform and act and stuff like that. But when we bring our awareness inwards, it is a completely different world. So probably two aspects of that. You can't change the past. That is part of you. That is who you are. So the mistakes you made in the past, you're not looking to change them. You're looking to find a wisdom within those moments that you missed. And that wisdom within those moments helps you grow as a soul. So every event that's happened is part of you. And you'll never remove that. You just have to understand it and understand that moving forward, I'm going to start putting myself in positive spaces and acknowledging the value of who I am, surrounding myself with love and harmony and a place of self-awareness. And the other kind of, I would say, would be, it's no one's place to control anybody else. So the moment that you find yourself trying to control someone, stop and ask yourself, what's driving these emotions? What's driving these energies? And if you can stop that within that moment, it is a step in a positive direction. And control can be in many different manners, but it's all about self-awareness, self-care, and self-love. So those are the two I would say most people would relate to.
Beautiful. So when you knew I was going to interview you today, and you had a sense of what you wanted to make sure got said, and we've been all over the place having this beautiful conversation. So did I miss anything, or is there something you want to make sure gets said in today's interview to be in service to others, or to say what you were intending to be said?
I like to kind of feel the energy of the interview and then kind of naturally take it from there. I do rely on my guys sometimes, or I just the interviewer's energy. So your energy kind of drives me, kind of what you're kind of looking for. But I would say that if people are looking, there's a place, and there's spiritual teachers popping up everywhere, all the way around the world, and there's a place that holds value for yourself. And the message is just to say, you are an individual. You have got a purpose in this lifetime, and you are valued. So find a community, find those spiritual coaches, and embrace life with love and purpose.
Love it. What a great message. When you were talking 2 minutes ago about the past and it's happened, and there's this great saying, don't know who said it, so we'll call it anonymous, but it's a beautiful saying, and it says, when you can remember your past without all the emotion, you can call that wisdom. And I really connected to you when you said that, because we want to use the past as a guide. The history is important because we don't want to repeat it, or we do, right? So I love that awareness, but having it be something that happened that taught us or got us here and placed us on this place is really just about moving forward. And I think that's about everything you're saying in your work too. So I love that. So I think that is a beautiful conversation that my audience will absolutely love. People who follow the Intuitive Mindset podcast or watch our YouTube channel, this is your audience. It's people who are immersed in their own healing, and they just want to raise consciousness, and everything you said connects to that. So we're going to slide into rapid fire. I don't even know if you know what rapid fire is. Do you know what rapid fire is?
I could kind of guess.
Okay, good. Because the music's kicked up right now. This is where it gets silly, but you're only allowed like one word answers. So it's going to be fun, because your location right now is where? Where are you located?
New Zealand.
Look at that, across the world, right? So we're on totally different time zones. It's the morning for you and headed into night for me the day before. So we're going to trip people up by asking these questions from someone around the world. Here we go. What is your favorite movie?
the goodwill hunting, I would say.
Oh, I love that. If you were going to change the world today, you might have already said it because you said so much about changing the world. What would the world need in order to be changed?
Obvious one's peace, but I think honesty would be honesty and truth.
Love that. We all have pet peeves, things that drive us nuts. Can you share one of your pet peeves with our audience?
A lot of time every day with my dog, and if he'd probably tell you that he'd go, oh no, not that time again when I've got to have all these cuddles and stuff like that. So I am.
Oh, too funny.
Yeah.
Have personal qualities we love about ourselves. What is something you really like about yourself?
That within this moment, I have free will.
And the last question before we thank the audience and say goodbye is, what are you doing when you're experiencing joy?
Just by being present. That is the only thing that brings that awareness and attracts those energies. You know, that if there's a moment of peace, joy, love, harmony, any of those qualities, it is just by being present and absorbing it and understanding everything that happens.
I love it. My definition of nirvana right now. I love it. Danielle, thank you so much. Thank the audience for participating today. We truly do appreciate everybody being here. Thank you. And we will put all the links to Danielle in this post, including his book. So everybody, bye for now. We'll see you next video. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing the space.
Hey, thank you for listening to today's The Intuitive Mindset. And if you'd like to be a guest on my show, please reach out to me. And together we can change the world one video at a time. Have a great day. Namaste.